have.
Well, actually, Kevin, I'm going to take it from here because I'm going to talk a little bit about the winds and the coastal concerns. Because when you have a strong storm like this, as you were mentioning, it's going to continue to intensify. And as it does so, those winds are really going to pick up. Right now, we have sustained winds at 30 miles per hour in Boston. Those winds are just screaming on shore along the coast, 22 in Plymouth, 30 in P-Town. And we're going to continue to see these winds increase as we head on through the evening hours. But the wind gusts, that's every so often you'll get a peak wind gust, and we're talking about wind gusts about 50 to 60 miles per hour possible as we head on through the next several hours. But if we go ahead and take a look at the current wind gusts, I went right by, but 48 miles per hour in Boston right now. That's the current wind gust. 49 in Nantucket, 40 in P-Town. And we're going to see the possibility of hurricane force wind gusts in the coastal waters. That's why we do have a hurricane force wind warning through late tonight through tomorrow afternoon. Otherwise, yes, Nantucket's going to see gusts up to 75 miles per hour with a high wind warning, but we're likely going to see these northeast to northerly winds just pile up the water along the coast, and that's why we have some coastal concerns. That's why we have a coastal flood warning for moderate to major coastal flooding. I think definitely across the east-facing beaches, timing during the time of high tide, which will be around 9 p.m. tonight, an hour or so before and after, and then again tomorrow. In fact, tomorrow morning's high tide around 10 o'clock. I'm very concerned that we're going to see major flooding because we're going to be continuing to go through the thick of this. The winds are going to continue to increase, and that water is just going to pile up, allowing for many shore roads to be impassable, some beach erosion, some structures also possibly at risk, and a storm surge of 2 to 4 feet with 20 to 25 foot waves crashing along the beach. What does a storm surge really mean? Well, consider that you're in a pool and you have a friend with you and you want to splash them. You take your arm along that water, that's like the wind, and as you push your arm along the water, all that water piles up and hits your friend. That's what a storm surge is. And despite the fact it may be 2 to 3 feet, it's going to add to the high tide, and that's where we get our storm tide, and that's why we're talking moderate to major coastal flooding. Where we're seeing red is where we're likely going to see some major flooding in places like Revere, but also south of Boston from Hull down to Sandwich. In fact, Sandwich is going to see storm tide over 15 feet with a storm surge of 4.5 feet. Waves crashing at the beach about 20 feet. You can see that these waves are really going to increase as we head on through the overnight hours and for the day tomorrow. So that's why we do have some major coastal concerns. There's the latest look at the coastal concerns, of course. And Mark, over to you. More on that now. We're going to keep that theme going here because we have the Scituate Town Administrator on the line. She's Patricia Vincasi. Patricia, thank you so much for joining us. I know down in the Scituate area you are going door to door now and alerting residents in that area to seek shelter?
Our public safety personnel spent most of the day visiting the areas most prone to coastal flooding,
right,
and asked people to leave before the storm really started to accelerate.
Now, you have a shelter being set up, and it's available after 6 o'clock tonight, according to this memo that we got. Is that correct?
That's correct. At 6 o'clock at the Scituate High School, our shelter will be open and fully functional.
What has been the response to people as they've gone door to door today? Have they said, you know what, you're right, let me grab my things and I'll go?
My understanding is that that's pretty much what folks have been telling us, that they're not planning on staying and hopefully heeding the warnings they've been hearing for the last 48 hours.
Patricia, if you'd like to say something to someone who may be watching this right now and they live in Scituate and they're, concerned, what would you say to them?
Well, I think that they should pay attention to the information they've received from the media and from their local officials, and that if they have any doubt whatsoever, they should come to the shelter or stay with family and friends out of the coastal area. And we want people to be safe, but we also don't want to jeopardize the public safety people who are trying to do their job to get to folks who really may have serious situations and need their help.
Again, we're talking with the Scituate Town Administrator, Patricia Vincasi. And Patricia, you have a tide coming up tonight, 10 o'clock tomorrow, 10 o'clock in the morning, and clearly you're trying to get them out into a safe location well in advance of this tide coming in.
That's correct. The wind direction for us is going to play a major factor in how much tidal overwash we continue to receive in addition to the snow and wind impacts. We've seen a lot more deterioration in the weather in the last hour, and the wind has picked up. And we're concerned, obviously, about the 10 o'clock tide this evening,
right.
But the one tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. is the one we're really going to be watching with the wind direction.
And obviously, if anybody wanted to just go down there, perhaps they don't live that close, but they want to go down and view a high tide in Scituate, best not to do that in these circumstances.
The roadways have all been restricted access with the governor's ban. There's no travel on those roads, but no one but emergency personnel are going to have any access whatsoever to any streets and roadways along the coast.
And you have two tides coming up, one tonight, one tomorrow. Would this extend beyond that into the rest of the weekend?
We hope not, but again, depending on what those tides do, we'll have to make adjustments as necessary. After the two high tides, we're really mostly going to be concerned with the extent of any power outages they may be, how many there are, and the extent and duration of how long people will be without electricity.
So again, if you live down in the Scituate area, you are being asked to move along. If you're on the waterfront there is a shelter being set up that'll be open at 6 o'clock. So in less than an hour, you can seek shelter there. Again, Patricia Vincase, keep us updated, if you will. Scituate Town Administrator, appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
So there you have it. We were seeing quite a bit of this, obviously, along the water's edge, and we had live shots you saw of Revere earlier. We have seen a number of people out on the shore, but mostly it has been reporters. Thankfully, a lot of people who normally would go out to the beach just aren't making it right now, and that is a good thing. Catherine Parada has been up on Revere Beach. There you're hearing the story from Scituate. We've also heard from authorities down in the Marshfield area as well, who have also put out, in fact, in Marshfield, a code red alert to coastal residents to self-evacuate to a safe place for the next two high tides. And these tides, again, are at 10 at night and 10 in the morning.
Longtime residents out here are sticking it out, and they live right along the dune. They're, of course, concerned about the storm surge, especially when it gets going tomorrow morning at high tide just after 10 in the morning. There's going to be another high tide tonight, also just after 10 p.m. They'll be monitoring that just to see how things go. There's some breaches in the dunes down there, so they're worried about the water kind of getting into the marsh area. We talked to some of the people who are sticking this out. Here they are.
Yeah, we're very concerned about this particular storm because the way that the winds are coming in, it's going to be pushing the water directly on this part of the beach. And this part of the beach right now is extremely vulnerable.
20-foot waves, if you look out there, is going to be pretty disastrous to us.
So as bad as the snow's going to be, again, it's the storm surge and the high waves that they're most concerned about. We're live in Sandwich. Sean Kelly, WCVB News Center 5.
Hey, Sean, before you go, do me a favor. Would you please just turn around and show me the back of your jacket? That's where
It's sticky snow.
That's where the storm is coming, and as you moved, you knocked much of it off. But nonetheless, that gives you an indication of exactly how hard Sean is getting pounded on a line.
Conditions pretty
Sandwich.
tough right now in Sandwich, and they're going to go downhill fast. We want to take you to Martha's Vineyard, which is all snow right now, as Harvey says. 40-mile-an-hour in excess of that wind gust there right now. Zachary is Skyping with us. And hey, Zachary, how are you?
Let's come down a little bit.
Can you hear us, Zachary?
Sure.
How are the conditions there? We understand it's all snow.
Well, we got a lot of wind right now, and the snow's just starting to kick up, but it's mostly wind, and we had a lot of rain, but now the snow's starting to come down.
Harvey says that they're clocking winds out there at well over 40 miles per hour. Does that sound about right with what you're noticing?
It's about right. It's about right, and I guess during Sandy we were over 60, so it's actually starting to build up, but it's about 40, 45 is about right.
Are you near the ocean? Is that the ocean behind you?
That is the ocean behind. It's actually the harbor, Edgartown Harbor, and the ocean is just over to the north here.
Hey, Zachary, how portable is that camera? Can you step beyond the protection of the porch and just see how active it is there?
Sure. Let's see how we can do. Do you want me to come out here?
We'll just see what happens as you go through. You can see actually you could see the snow on the ground, which is what you couldn't see in Nantucket a little bit ago. Can you still hear me talking to you, or has the wind denied that?
I can hear you.
Does it feel much differently? It doesn't sound much differently.
No, it's pretty good, but the wind's definitely starting to pick up.
Zachary, where's your hat? I know Vineyard people are hardy people.
Zachary, thank you so much for playing along and stepping outside for it. Zachary was outside in the Vineyard, and the point is the winds that we're all beginning to feel, no matter where we are